We have Roger McQueen's NCAA debut and some finalized rosters to dive into. That and more on this episode of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome, everydayers. Thank you for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I am Kyle Kjer. I'm a lifelong Anaheim Ducks fan. I've spent multiple years covering collegiate sports, including college hockey. But here on Locked On Ducks every day, we talk about the Anaheim Ducks, and we've got a roster for opening night finally announced, and I want to break all into that and what that looks like. But first, I want to dive into the young man. I was going to say the kid, but this kid is already a gigantic being. But he finally steps into the realm of adulthood, that is the NCAA, and has his debut game against Quinnipiac, which a roster of pretty much men that this young man is going up against. So definitely a good little challenge, and it was an exhibition game, but I do want to get into just kind of how it looked and seeing him out there in that college environment for the first time and all of that. So needless to say, Roger McQueen did step onto the ice against Quinnipiac and a 2-1 win for the Providence Friars. He did not make it to the first exhibition game due to being out from illness, but finally steps in as the top line center for Providence in this game. And he had a pretty decent showing. I'll get into what I saw, but just to kind of give you a rundown on the numbers of what that game looked like for him, he had 0 goals, 0 assists. He had 1 shot in the first period, 2 shots in the second period, and 1 shot in the third for a total of 4 shots. So no points, gets 4 shots in the game. He is a -1, but that was because he was out for a power play goal, so that does not count, or else he would have been a 0. In the face-off dot, he did do a pretty decent job. He was 50%. He had 8 wins out of 16 face-offs. He did take a holding penalty, so 2 minutes of penalty minutes there for him. And he did have 1 block shot, which came at a pretty crucial time towards the end there, as Quinnipiac was trying to get a tie with the goalie out of the net and 6 men on the ice. This game, you could kind of tell that this was definitely a adjustment for Roger McQueen, going from juniors, kind of missing time due to his injury with his back. Now he's stepping up, coming into the collegiate style of play, which is a little more rounded out. You got a lot more adults that you're going up against with some of these older players, especially Quinnipiac. They are not a team that is young. They have a lot of players that are more on the back end of their collegiate years. And so these are guys that have been doing it, and it's a very blue collar type school. So very tough, very rough and tumble. It's probably one of the best challenges that you could have for Roger McQueen as your first kind of step into the NCAA world. So glad he got a decent test, at least, while approaching this new style of play and kind of getting adjusted to the college life. And you could see it, though, in his body language and just some of the plays that he made. He was at least he looked like he was a step behind on a lot of the plays. Like, just the reactionary time was a little behind. He needs a little bit of a refinement on where to be positionally and kind of just how to react and where to shadow and how to just be a little bit more engaged. I do wonder with kind of having that bigger frame if he, from his experience, has gotten called for more penalties. If he's a little bit more locked in and trying to tie up a guy because of his height, but he seemed to kind of be more of a free floater in this game. Not a lot of times where he's in there kind of tying someone down or being down low as a center. It seemed like he was a little bit higher up in the defensive zone for a center. I haven't watched much of Providence's hockey as of late, so I don't know if that was like a system structural thing, because I did notice it from the other guys a little bit, but he just seemed a little too ready for that breakout as a center than being more on the defensive side of things. There was some brilliance in his play when it came to the penalty kill. Obviously, that big frame, that long stick is going to help with that situation and being able to close off those lanes and make sure passes aren't getting cross ice and down low. And so he definitely had an active stick on that PK, and they were really good on the penalty kill. They didn't allow any penalty or power play goals for Quinnipiac this game, which was great to see from that perspective if you're a Friars fan. But as a Roger McQueen fan and now follower, it was good to see that he did do a decent job on the penalty kill. He had a few attempts on net. There was some shots of or glimpses of what he can do. It's kind of crazy just how big he is, but yet how soft he can have with his mitts. Like he can be in a very tight situation and have very in close puck movement, kind of toe drag. A couple shots that he didn't get on net were from kind of toe dragging guys or out deking a guy, and then the shot just was wide, so it doesn't count as a shot on net. But there was some glimpses of really good play out of him, and all of that's going to come with time as he gets more adjusted to this type of play. I think you're going to see some goals coming from Roger McQueen once he starts to crack through and really get the hang of the style and pace of play of NCAA hockey. And being part of the Hockey East program, you're definitely going to get a lot of competition out there in New England. So he's got a lot of seasoning coming his way. They were talking about the schedule, a lot of games against BC, BU, Maine, teams that are not going to be a walk in the park for him. But with that, like, not only did he have a couple good shots, he had some in tight areas where he was down low battling. He did have a really good display of his passing game. I think that is something that I noticed during this game, and it really stood out to me, making really crisp, strong, clean passes. I think he had maybe one or two giveaways, but overall making really clean through the seam passes, tape to tape, leading guys exactly where they need to be. His off puck speed definitely there. With that kind of being a step behind, I think that's just coming with that adjustment and really getting used to the new team. But once he got up to speed and he's really engaged in the play, he's right there down low. He had a couple breakaway chances, 2-on-1s with some of his players or his teammates. So that was there. Kind of got muscled off the puck, not really muscled off, but just lost the puck to these Quinnipiac players. I think the Bobcats are very hard on the stick, and they're going to make it difficult to retain the puck. So just kind of getting that awareness down and being a little bit more quick and a little bit more protective of the puck. And I think that's all going to come with his time there, which is good to see that the things that he's having issues with aren't like overly, like he's not really behind structurally or not being there engaged in the play all the time. Like he had his moments and he definitely was shining. And I think he's got a lot to work with and not a lot to work on, but just some things that need to be tightened up and tweaked. And I see him doing that. So you saw a lot of brilliance out of him. Just needs to get a little adjusted to how to protect the puck at this level and make just a little bit quicker plays and be a little bit more engaged on that quick muscle twitch movements where you're cutting across the crease, you're engaging back on offense, you're getting back on defense, and just getting it all together, that full package. And this is a great chance for him to develop and learn. And I'm really excited to see how the year progresses from this game to the end of the NCAA season. A little shorter than the NHL, but definitely glad to see that he's in there. It's getting top line minutes, and he's definitely learning, and his improvement showed through just the game as itself. So a lot to look forward to there. Now, to get back to the NHL, we have officially been announced or have been told the official game day opening night roster for the Anaheim Ducks and what they are going to be rolling with. So we'll get into that right after this. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all in one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy to use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. No more scattered random paperwork, random Excel folders, or financials 2004 on your laptop or your phone. Just have it on Monarch Money. It's right there, easy to use. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's a 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. So now we are going to get into the NHL. We were just talking about Roger McQueen and his NCAA debut, at least to where we could watch it. It was an exhibition game, but it was fun to watch. And now today, after the official deadline of needing a cap friendly roster is passed. It was at 5:00 p.m. Eastern time. So at 2 p.m., we finally got the announcement of what the Ducks are rolling with in regards to their 23-man roster. And I am very, very bullish on this roster. I think there's a lot to be excited about. Kind of some familiar faces. Not a whole lot has changed, but what has changed on the bench and behind the bench is really going to be a big, big statement for what Ducks hockey is going to look like this year and where it is going here in the future. So let us take a look at the roster. I have it right here. So if you're on listening in, check out the YouTube. I have the roster here with me visible so you can see it. But we'll start off with the forward group here. You'll notice there on the fourth line, two names in each of the wing columns, but we'll get into that in a second on why. But looking at the top there, these are my predictions on what I think the roster will look like and where the lineups are. If you have my social media, I posted a picture on Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, and X, and all that stuff. I did not put the way that I had the fourth line as the same as I did on social media. So just letting you know, if you're looking at this, what I had posted on social media is a little bit different. And that's just because I kind of forgot about Ross Johnston. I must have skipped his name when I was looking at the list, mentally just ignored that. No offense, Ross Johnston. And also, I kind of was looking at Puckpedia and just where they had projected as well. And I think it makes a little more sense to have the two pairs of wing players rotating that I have here in the fourth line. So looking at the top, though, I think that Quenneville is going to be rolling out with Chris Kreider on the left, Leo Carlsson in the middle, and Troy Terry on the right. And then coming in on the second line, on the left, Cutter Gauthier, Mason McTavish in the center, and Mikael Granlund on the right for the second line. Now on the third line, looking at Frank Vatrano, Ryan Strome in the middle, and Alex Killorn on the right. That is the Unk line. The veteran, spicy, wise line, as we will call them. And now looking at this fourth line, and also we'll get into that, but the fact that that's a third line is insane to me. Now in the fourth line, on the left, Nikita Nesterenko and Ross Johnston switching back and forth. And then we've got Ryan Pelling in the center position. And on the right, switching out will be Beckett Seneca and Sam Colangelo. So that is the forward group. Looking at the defense, kind of business as usual compared to last year. But we have Jackson Lacombe on the left with Radko Gudas and Olin Zellweger on the left with Jacob Trouba on the right. And that third pairing, Pavel Minchikov and Drew Hellison on the right. So with that, I did want to mention that Jansen Harkins is on IR as well right now. So that's another player that's part of the roster, but is on IR until he comes back. Had that injury where his arm went into the camera hole, which was probably the most freak accident you could have. Pretty insane. And now looking at our goalies, I know I did not forget about them. I just had a feeling you knew exactly who they were. But we've got Lukasz Dostal backed up by Peter Mrazek and Ville Husso. Expect tomorrow you may see that Ville Husso will be on waivers. I put that in air quotes because they need to have him pass waivers so they can send him to the AHL. Just with Mrazek there, it's most likely going to be Ville Husso that's going to be the guy put on waivers. He could have been put on waivers today by Anaheim, but they did not want to risk him getting grabbed by teams that need a goalie. And the hope is that people that do need a goalie grab them today. And so tomorrow he can kind of slip through the cracks so they can send him to the AHL. But just expect some alert saying, hey, there's a Ducks goalie on waivers. Not a bad thing. They didn't do anything wrong. So this is the lineup. And honestly, like I said, not a lot different. Obviously, Chris Kreider is in there now and Mikael Granlund. No Trevor Zegras with Ryan Pelling coming in. So that's kind of the only change that's really occurred. We've got a little mix up on the lines compared to what we saw with Cronin. We don't have the Vatrano Strome Terry line together right now. They've kind of made that Killorn take over Terry's spot. It really seems like they're trying to get Terry and Carlson locked on together, no pun intended. And I think that's a good choice for now, but I also don't want to miss out on the Cutter Gauthier chemistry that what there was with Leo Carlsson. That's a little concern of mine, but obviously Coach Quenneville knows a thing or two about hockey and coaching a team and developing a roster. So I'm not going to question it if this is the way that the roster looks. I think this is an absolute good group of players. Now with Quenneville's system, we should be expecting a lot. I have a very high level of expectation for this team. Not that I'm going to be disappointed. Well, I mean, who am I kidding? I might be a little disappointed, but I mean, I'm not like going to lose my mind and think like, oh my gosh, this is terrible if they don't make the playoffs or they're right there on the cusp of it. I don't expect like a Stanley Cup now. I don't expect a long playoff run now. I expect there to be some growing pains, but I am definitely not expecting a downfall. I'm not expecting the Ducks to drop in points or to not have a successful season this year. I see improvement, and I see a good fought hard battle up until the end of this regular season. I don't think they're going to be out of it at any point during the season, and they're going to be right there on the cusp. That is my expectation, but there are situations that could occur. And so, what would be the worst case scenario? What would be the best case scenario? I want to get into that, but first, we'll take a little break. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get 300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. With FanDuel, you can get involved with the postseason for the MLB. You can pick who's going to win the uh, final touchdown in the NFL, who's going to get that last kick, what's going to be the top receiving yards, all that stuff. There's so many ways to get engaged. So, what are you waiting for? Visit fanduel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. So now looking at this year, as we finally have a roster, gonna put that back up again so you can take a look at that roster. Chris Kreider, Leo Carlson, Troy Terry, Cutter Goche, Mason McTavish, Mikael Granlund, Frank Vatrano, Ryan Strome, Alex Killorn, Nikita Nesterenko, Ross Johnston, Ryan Pelling, Beckett Seneca, Sam Colangelo, Jackson Lacombe, Radko Gudas, Olen Zellweger, Jacob Trouba, Pavel Minchikov, and Drew Hellison, and Lukas Dostal, and Peter Mrazek, and Billy Huso. Not listed here, but pretty decent squad. I think a lot of it is business as usual for the Ducks, but you have a lot of seasoning under this group now. You have players that have had pretty much full year of experience, if they didn't already. There is only one player on that list that hasn't been engaged for most of a NHL season, and that is Beckett Seneca. And I do like the approach of having him be on this fourth line. It sounds like he's really learning how to be more engaged at the NHL level of forecheck by being on the fourth line. And it gives him time to understand and connect with the NHL pace and to really understand how to play and do all the little things right at this level without being the guy. He doesn't have to be the main right winger right out of the bat. He can just take his time and develop. It sounds like they're really putting him on the Carlson plan again. And so it's going to be in and out, not every single game. You're going to see kind of some conditioning breaks for him, maybe some time down in the AHL. I think it's going to be a pretty up and down, no pressure with his development. They're just going to do what they can with him and make sure he plays and gets his repetition, but also doesn't get, overwhelmed or have that breakdown in confidence. So going into the best case and the worst case scenario now with this squad, I think the worst case scenario for me for a while was that McTavish wasn't going to get done, and we were going to be getting into the regular season without McTavish, and it was just going to be a massive headache and worry, and that has gone. So the official worst case scenario that has left my mind, but now I think what could be the worst case scenario for this team is that the system that is tried to trying to be implemented by Joel Quenneville just doesn't work out. And either it gets picked up by other teams quickly and they end up not getting the scoring that we're expecting. And it just becomes kind of a dull, flat year. And there isn't a huge break. And basically, Dostal just doesn't have a step up year. His numbers don't increase. And we see kind of a just mediocre showing by this squad, and they don't even reach the same amount of points as last year. That is worst case scenario. And I'm trying to fight a sneeze right now because I'm allergic to BS. So if I do sneeze, I'm sorry, but that's the worst case scenario. My body even recognizes that's not even going to happen. It's ridiculous. Don't even think about that. But it is a possibility that if worst comes to worst, it doesn't work. But looking at the best case scenario, this is the optimum, like perfect. The season goes exactly the way it should. That I have the Ducks finishing in 4th place with a wild card spot. So they are going to the playoffs because there's 4-4. The Central is a decent competition this year, but just the divisions stay right in step. So you get the Ducks in on a wild card spot in that 4th place in the Pacific. They go to the playoffs. They have a decent showing, but they do get beat by whoever they go up against. I don't see them really coming out of this one strong. It's probably going to be either Edmonton or Vegas that they're facing off against, or it's going to be the Central team, depending on where they're at in the wild card. So whoever takes the Central, but I don't think they're going to get past whoever it is that they show up against. I am looking at Jackson Lacombe having over 60 points. I think that we're going to see 30 goals out of Cutter Gauthier, 30 goals out of Mason McTavish, and 25 plus goals out of Leo Carlson. I think Carlson's going to be a little bit more on the assists side of things, but it does look like he's starting to shoot more, and he's got such a nasty shot. So that's my best case scenario out of those guys. Jackson Lacombe leading the team in points. You've got 30 goal scorer in Cutter Gauthier and Mason McTavish, and a 25 goal scorer in Leo Carlson. And I think you're going to see a lot of buckets going in by Chris Kreider just from being in the right spot. So he's going to be at about 20 goals himself. That's kind of who I see being those leaders. I think we're going to have at least 6 players in the 20 goal mark or more. I just see a spread out, like feel the love type season for this team. And I think everyone's going to take a tick, and we're going to have a lot of guys, not only in the double digits, but past that 20 goal mark. So that would be the ultimate best case. Ducks 4th place. They've got a playoff showing where they get to experience the postseason, but they just don't quite crack. But they get that, itch for the next year. And that's where we're really going to see stuff start to really take off. I think it's going to be a very up and down year for them. You're going to see a lot of battling, and you're going to have a lot of anxiety as a Ducks fan, because you're going to be riding this hill of emotions, just going up and down like you're driving through the hills of Camp Pendleton, just up the hills, down the hills, steep climb, steep decline. Things are going to be making you feel sick to your stomach and also just elated. So expect a fun, tumultuous season this year out of the Anaheim Ducks. But the best thing that's going to happen to them is a nice little playoff berth. The worst case, which we're not even going to think about, but we have to bring up, is that they have a decline and they just don't show up this year. But it's so highly unlikely that will be the case. I think we're going to be raining buckets. We're going to be feeling good. It's going to be a party out here. It's like we're hanging out on Newport Beach, just having a few. even though you're not legally supposed to, but we're not doing that. We're having a few, few of something, but we're going to be having fun and it's going to be a good year. So get ready for it. We're almost to the regular season. We're almost to the first Ducks game on the road. And then we're almost there to the home opener coming up next Tuesday. So I hope to see you there. And I hope you enjoy the next week of hockey. And let me know if you got any other ideas on what you think the worst case or the best case scenario for this team is. Always look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about that. And beyond that, thank you for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you go like and subscribe to this podcast YouTube. That is Locked On Anaheim Ducks on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, you get to check out my beautiful graphic with the roster if you do check out the YouTube. But beyond that, as always, I'm Kyle Carr. Be good out there.